What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Wildcat Cave. This past week has been nuts. There is drama everywhere you look. Louisville might as well shut down their athletic department. Kentucky is trying to hire an offensive coordinator. With a new offensive coordinator comes a ton of transfer portal options. The transfer portal has over 1,000 players in it already. Kentucky's bowl game got announced, and there's a lot of controversy there. And on top of all of it, this is one of the wildest starts to a college basketball season I can remember. So buckle in and let's see if we can make any sense of it all. And also at the end, I'll be announcing the day and time of the next live stream here on the channel. So stick around for that. Now I know this is a Kentucky-based YouTube account, but we have to address what's happening at the dumpster fire down I-64. Scott Satterfield is officially out as the coach of Louisville and is moving on to coach the University of Cincinnati. Now, his time at Louisville was very underwhelming. He didn't have a great record. He ended up 25-24 overall and 15-18 in the ACC. And that's not a great look considering his predecessor was always in contention to win the ACC. They had Lamar Jackson and Heisman hopes. And overall, Scott Satterfield was just not successful at the University of Louisville like that program should be. Probably the most damning stat, though, that kind of had the fans run him out of town and made him want to leave is that he was 0-4 against Kentucky. By no means, by any metric, is he exactly a beacon of success. But being 0-4 against your rival is going to buy you the quickest ticket out of town, no matter where you're at. Now, I never claimed Scott Satterfield was a stand-up guy or a very morally conscious gentleman, but it came out this week that he had already left the team when the rumors started to come out he was going to Cincinnati, and he wasn't even man enough to look his team in the eye and tell him he was leaving. It was tweeted out by former player Vincent Lococo that he FaceTimed the team to tell him he was leaving. Also, it came out from other players and assistants that they didn't even know he was leaving until they found out on Twitter. I will put all of these tweets here on the screen for you guys to see, but it's some pretty damning stuff coming from his former players, talking about how he made them tweet out how good of a coach and how good of a person he was when the South Carolina rumors came out. It's all really crazy, and I think it just speaks to how terrible of a person Satterfield is. But here's where the plot thickens. Louisville is slated to play Cincinnati in their bowl game. It's going to be Satterfield's former team that he just left against his new team. It's going to be insane. That is the Fenway Bowl. It's December 17th at 11 a.m. if you want to tune into some drama. But the questions are starting to come up. Who should he coach? Should he just sit out? What is going to happen there? And you know what the craziest thing is? In the Fenway Bowl, it's played in Fenway Park, obviously, which is a baseball stadium, so there's not a ton of room. And both teams are going to be on the same sideline, not across the field from each other, right next to each other. Personally, I hope Satterfield stands right on the 50, coaches both teams, and just throws L's down everywhere. It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be must-watch TV. So if you're not doing anything on the 17th, make sure you tune into that for the drama. Also, I just want to know, what did Cincinnati think that made them want to hire Satterfield? And what did Satterfield see in Cincinnati? Did he think it's a better job? Because, yes, they've had success. Yes, they're going to be a Power 5 school in the next couple years. Yes, they made the playoffs a few years ago. But by all standards and metrics, even Louisville being a dumpster fire right now, they should be the better job. They should have a chance to win the ACC every year. And overall, they should be the more prestigious program. I think Satterfield was just looking for his quickest way out of town. It could have been St. Mary's School of the Blind, and he would have hopped on that job instead of staying at Louisville. But the biggest problem to me is, what was Cincinnati thinking? What about Scott Satterfield's tenure at Louisville made them go, wow, he's going to do so well here? I really don't know. It seems it's mind-blowing to me that Cincinnati, after coming off such success with Luke Fickell, is going to drop down to Scott Satterfield. But I digress. But speaking of teams that want to make good hires, Kentucky is looking to make a good hire themselves at offensive coordinator. Right now, all signs point to Liam Coen being option number one. Now, I'm recording this Thursday morning before the Rams game tonight. The Rams do play tonight, and nothing has been announced yet, but that could change by the minute. All the rumors and all the stories coming out right now is that Liam Coen may already be hired, and they're waiting to after the Rams game tonight to announce that. But there are some logistical issues with that. It depends on if the Rams are allowing him to leave early. How is he going to recruit while still coaching an NFL team? There's a lot that's going to go into this, and they're saying that if it doesn't happen this week, Liam Coen might be out and we may have to move on, because this is not a decision that can continue to wait. We have to get on the recruiting trail. We have to get a quarterback in here soon, and that's hard to do, recruiting a quarterback with them not knowing who the offensive coordinator is. I still think Coen is the dude, but if it doesn't get announced here soon, we should all start to get a little worried. Like I said, I believe that what is going to happen and what the rumors kind of online are is that Liam Coen may have already agreed. They may have already worked all this out, and they're just waiting till after the Rams game tonight to announce it. So you might hear something tomorrow or Friday that this could all be worked out and be announced really soon. If it ends up not being Coen, it does seem like Stoops has some other options ready, but I think all of his chips are in on Coen right this second. Some of the other names that kind of emerged from this is the guy from the New York Jets who almost got the job before Rich, and then possibly the University of Cincinnati's passing coordinator, Gino Guidugli. But whichever coordinator Stoops bring in is going to have to determine how well UK does in the transfer portal. Like I said, there's already 1,000 athletes in the portal, and Kentucky has some key spots to fill. Number one, and most important, being the quarterback. Right now, Graham Mertz seems to be the guy everybody is leaning to. I even saw the first report today that he is silently committed to Kentucky already. He is currently the quarterback at Wisconsin, and I've watched some film on him. I've looked at his stats. To me, he looks a lot like Will Levis without the arm. He's willing to run the ball. He's willing to take a couple hits. Wisconsin uses him a lot in the bootleg for whatever reason. Obviously, Wisconsin's offense is not conducive to putting up huge numbers as a quarterback, much like Kentucky's usually. But Wisconsin seemed to like to do play action stuff, fake the handoff, possibly roll him out and get him on the move. Maybe they didn't trust their offensive line. Maybe that's just the scheme they like to run. But that seems to be how they like to utilize him. Now, he did have 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions this year, the exact same as Will Levis. And like I said, they run a similar offensive style to Kentucky, a very run-first, run-heavy offense, and then try to throw off of that. Like I said, there's already been a couple reports saying that he is the guy and he is coming. Definitely the front runner in the betting odds for Kentucky's quarterback next year, but we'll just have to wait and see. He does have 2 years of eligibility left, which is the lowest out of all of these guys I'm going to talk about. I wish he had 3 or 4. But, if it is Coen that comes in, I trust Coen's pick if he's the guy, and we'll kind of go with it from there. Now, another name that was really popular a couple weeks ago was DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson. He definitely has the arm to be a quarterback that we need, throwing to our receivers, but he's not quite the athlete that Will Levis was, though he may have a comparable arm strength. He's a similar build. He's a big, tough dude. Doesn't move around in the pocket quite a bit. His biggest attribute is his experience. He's played in big-time games for Clemson now. He is still going to play in the Citrus Bowl, I believe. So his attribute that he's going to bring is a massive arm and a lot of D1 experience. But we've seen with Will Levis that experience isn't always the key. He was a no-name at Penn State, came to Kentucky, and is now going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. DJ does have 3 years of eligibility left, so that would be another upside to him. Another guy that the online rumors have started to circulate about is Hudson Card out of Texas. He's a fairly mobile guy in a good way, not a take-off and run type of quarterback, but, fairly mobile in the pocket, willing to get out and make plays. He does seem pretty accurate, but he doesn't have a great arm. When you see him throw downfield, it's a lot of air on the ball, not a real, when you see Levis throw the ball, there's a lot of zip that comes off of it right off of his wrist. This guy doesn't have that. His ball floats a little bit, which can lead to interceptions and stuff, but overall seems fairly accurate. He has gotten to learn under Steve Sarkisian, which is always a plus. A great offensive mind, but he doesn't have a ton of experience. There's a lot of unknowns with him, so you're kind of taking a gamble, much like Coen did with Levis at Penn State, and we saw how that worked out. So I don't want to rule this guy out. He's just not as proven, and he has 3 years of eligibility to learn. Now, finally, if Graham Mertz is the clear favorite, this guy may be second to him in Devin Leary from NC State. He's a smaller dude, not a huge frame. He can move in the pocket really well, seems really, really accurate, but he does only have 1 year of eligibility left, so he'd be a one and done for us. Is that enough time to learn a new offense and be really, really effective? I don't know. Maybe, but a lot of fans like this dude. The only problem I see is with 1 year of eligibility, he is a little injury prone. He got hurt this past year, and like I said, a smaller dude, and if Kentucky's O-line struggles early like they did this year, could be injury prone, and then we'd be out of quarterback anyway. But before Big Blue Nation can even begin to worry about who will be on the team next year, there is still unfinished business for the Cats this year. Kentucky still has to travel to Nashville and play in the Music City Bowl. Kentucky will again take on Iowa in their bowl game this year just being the Music City Bowl on December 31st at 12. Now, this is, of course, a repeat of last year's Citrus Bowl when UK beat Iowa 20-17. This game, honestly, guys, it's going to be ugly. Might not even be worth watching, if we're being honest. I believe Iowa is on their third string quarterback, and it just came out yesterday that Will Levis has decided to opt out of this bowl game and save himself and begin to prepare for the NFL draft. This is not going to be a pretty game. This is not going to be a high-scoring game. This is going to be a defensive battle, much like it was last year, except at least our offense was at full strength with Will, C-Rod, and Wandell. This year, Will's not playing. We'll see about C-Rod. Probably not likely that he plays. Iowa's offense is ranked 130th out of 131 teams. Kentucky's is ranked 107th out of 131. So neither of these guys, especially not at full strength, are going to put up a ton of points, and both have top 20 defenses. So it's probably going to be hard to move the ball for both teams. It's going to be a rock fight. Bad offense, good defense. The over-under opened at 33 points, which is insanely low, which means they think that the winning team is going to win something like 18-15, which is not a pretty game. That under has already been bet down to 31.5. I believe this is one of like the 3 lowest over-unders of any bowl game in history. So that is how little Vegas thinks of these two teams' offense. But, again, there's drama. Drama everywhere, guys. This game is at the same exact time as the Kentucky-Louisville basketball game. Not an hour off, not 5 minutes before, the exact same time. And this just puts fans in a really bad spot. If Kentucky was playing, whoever, anybody other than Louisville, this probably wouldn't be a big deal. Everybody would just put the basketball game on the back burner, tune into football, and call it a Happy New Year. But it's Louisville, and it doesn't matter how bad Louisville is. Kentucky fans are going to want to see that game. It's going to be more convenient for a lot of fans to go to the Louisville game as opposed to Nashville and the Music City Bowl. But at the end of the day, it's going to make fans choose, which is not something you want to do as a university. There's been excuses been made that Kentucky didn't have a choice. This is the bowl game they had to go to, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Yeah, you don't want to go to the Vegas Bowl right in the middle of recruiting season. But to me, if you're Kentucky, you have to think about the fan experience at some point, which is something the university hasn't done well at all. That's probably Mitch's biggest criticism as AD. I feel like a compromise could have been made, especially because it's a repeat of last year. You're playing the same team you just played in a less prestigious bowl. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but it seems like it was almost intentional from the football program to want this bowl. We know how the football versus basketball school thing took off earlier this year, and to me, I don't know, it seems like Stoops might have pushed this bowl just as a statement to Cal saying, we are going to play this at the same time as one of your biggest home games, and we're going to take fans from you. I don't know. Again, I hope not. I hope it's just a really bad set of circumstances, but this almost seems intentional. But speaking of our basketball team, there has been some pretty things happening in that world as well that we really haven't gotten to cover on the channel yet. We'll start with Kentucky just beat Michigan 73-68. Cason Wallace finally has a big game, hits huge shots down the stretch for Kentucky to pull the win out. Ugo had a really good game. His first, in my opinion, really, really impressive game. I think he only finished like 4 points and 4 rebounds, but he was playing against Hunter Dickinson, which is one of the best centers in college basketball. Held his own, blocked him pretty well. The only complaint there is that Hunter Dickinson is just a big body dude. Ugo still needs to build some strength, put on a little weight. He was able to block a couple shots. Even when he blocked them, though, Dickinson got his own miss and put the ball back in. But it was really a good breakout game for him. It seems like he has taken over Lance Ware's spot as the backup to Oscar. So that could be a really interesting dynamic going forward, especially when we play teams that don't have a big-bodied center, maybe longer, skinnier guys like Ugo. I think he'll be a really good piece against teams like that. Xavier played really well. He played under control mostly, but there were still some issues that continue to rear their heads for this Kentucky basketball team. Number one being free throws. We went 10 of 20 from the line. Shooting 50% is never going to win you many big games. I don't know how we do it. I know they practice it, but that has to get tightened up, and it has to get tightened up in a hurry. We have some big games coming up for the Cats. Number two is these rotations. What is Cal doing? He preaches about how he wants to put Livingston at the 4 and then never does it. He says they don't even practice it. So how are you going to tell me that you want to play him there and then don't do it? You're the coach. You make those decisions. Do it. We have to play lineups that can score. We cannot have Ugo and Xavier and 4 or 5 guys on the floor that just can't create their own shots. At one point, they only had C.J. Frederick on the floor. That was their only shooter. Everyone else was non-threats to score the basketball. Chris Livingston did play well, but he's not a great shooter. Xavier is not a great shooter. Damian Collins is not a great shooter. Lance Ware is not a great shooter. And that was like the lineup they had on the floor. It was 4 non-shooters and CJ, who has honestly struggled. I don't even know if he's a great shooter right now. So we have to get these, especially late game rotations, nailed down and with people on the floor that can create. Also, late shot clock management is an issue. Having Xavier dribble the air out of the ball until there's 5 seconds left and then trying to create is not his game. Listen, he was making them. I'm not going to complain. He had just a filthy turnaround jumper at the free throw line late in the shot clock. He hit that 3 that he got hurt on. He did really well, but going forward, that is not a recipe for success for this Kentucky basketball team. They have got to get better late in the shot clock. And also, the last real complaint I'm going to have is they just seem like they get lost on defense quite a bit. Guys cutting, guys getting open. They don't seem like they're fully comfortable there yet. Now, here's the good news. All of that is fixable. Free throws, those are fixable. That just might come with experience and time and being ready for big in-game situations. Rotations are fixable. Shot clock management is fixable. And knowing where to be on defense is all fixable. But here's the good news. There's not a dominant team in college basketball this year. Houston looks good, but everybody has shown that they can lose basketball games. Gonzaga has 2 really bad losses, getting blown out. UNC has already went from number 1 to unranked. UCLA has 2 losses. Duke has 2 losses. Texas lost. A lot of powerhouses have lost games, which helps Kentucky's resume a bunch. And it makes our resume with our losses to Michigan State and Gonzaga not really look all that bad. And there's still a lot of teams at the top that have a lot of games to lose on their schedule. So overall, I think Kentucky is in a good spot right now despite our early season troubles. If we can win the out-of-conference stuff, play well in the SEC, which is really good with a lot of ranked teams right now, with Arkansas, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee. If we can go something like 14-4, 17-3 in the SEC, win our out-of-conference games in the season at like 26-5, I think we have a pretty good shot at getting that 1 seed and playing in Louisville, because there's a lot of fool's gold around college basketball right now. A lot of good teams that look bad, like Kentucky. A lot of bad teams that looked good for a second, like North Carolina. So we'll see how all this shakes out, but Kentucky is still set up for a really, really good run. And just imagine being the 1 seed in Louisville in the Elite Eight, playing for your first Final Four since 2015. That's a storybook ending. I can't wait. I hope Kentucky plays well. But that is going to wrap up this whirlwind of a week and a whirlwind of a video. Go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date on all of the madness. Drop a like on the video and let me know your thoughts on all of the drama right now. Let me know about your thoughts on Satterfield and the bowl game and the coordinator and everything else. And be sure to tune in next Wednesday, December 14th. Next Wednesday, December 14th at 8 p.m., we will be doing our second live stream here on the channel. We'll go back over all of this and more. We should have an offensive coordinator by then. We might have a quarterback by then. And we'll discuss everything in detail. You won't want to miss it. So be sure to tune in, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Go Cats!